First of all, I want to ask that what type of visa categories in Australia?
That's a great question. A good question to start with. There are about 99 visa categories, so each case has to be fitted into a particular category, a bit like a key in a lock.
Can you please tell us the basic categories of Australia?
Visa categories are as follows. 1, family visa stream, business visas, temporary visas, permanent visas, and they fall into the whole range of visa categories identified in the migration regulations. So you have the Migration Act, you have the regulations, and if you want to ask specific questions about visas, you just identify the visa you want to talk about, and I'll be able to talk about it sensibly so I can help your viewers.
Okay, I want to know about some permanent basis visa categories.
Okay, so permanent visa categories, both inside and outside of Australia. I'll start in the family.
Inside Australia.
I'm talking about an applicant applying offshore for an onshore visa. So in the spouse category of visas, if you are offshore, that is in Bangladesh, and you're going to apply for a spouse visa, you apply for what's called a 309-100. That visa has a mirror visa in Australia called the 82801. And that 82801 is for people who are physically present in Australia and can make that application. So the visa category streams are streamed into 2 broad categories: onshore applications, that is applications you make when you are in Australia, and applications that you make while you are outside of Australia, so onshore and offshore.
Okay, then I want to shift the topic on business visa categories. So what are the process?
Okay, so in the business visa categories, if you don't have a sponsor already organised to sponsor you for migration to Australia, you need to go on to what's called Skill Select, which allows a candidate to upload through a process called an expression of interest their qualifications and their experience so that they can be offered a place for migration to Australia in one of the visa categories. And it might be that you're looking for temporary visa, like a 482 visa, with a view to making a transition after about 3 years to a permanent visa under the employer nomination scheme.
For a business visa, how much money a person should invest to your country?
That question really relates to what's called the 188 visa scheme. So that provides for people to migrate to Australia upon investing a significant amount of capital, 5 million Australian dollars, for migration to Australia. And what that visa is intended to do is to create an investment platform for candidates who are offshore. There are also subcategories within the visa subclass 188 where people with less resources at their disposal, but with a developed business opportunity to be sponsored by a regional or state government authority for them to migrate to Australia and to be given the opportunity of being able to create a business in Australia. As a general rule, those candidates require a substantial amount of capital, but perhaps most importantly, they also are required to have a successful business record, at least 5 years preceding the making of the application. That application can be made onshore or offshore, but the advantage of making an application onshore is that if the application is refused, you have review rights, whereas if you make an application offshore, you often do not have review rights.
For which issues usually a business visa can be declined from your side?
As a general rule, it's the failure of documentation and the failure to establish that you've got a successful business record, and perhaps most importantly, that you've been paying taxes in, for example, Bangladesh. If you had a substantial business record and you've got funds at your disposal, you have to show where that money has come from, so that the department tends to dive very deep into your history So if, for example, you weren't paying the right amount of tax and that was discovered by the Department of Immigration or the documentation wasn't correct, that application would be refused. And they're the most common reasons why applications are refused.